All right, thanks a lot, Mitch. I'm here with Jerry Krause, Vice President of Basketball Operations. And Jerry, you're the architect of this whole Bull team. What was your blueprint or your game plan from day one?
Well, when we took the franchise 11 years ago, Jerry Reinsdorf bought it and brought me in about a month later, Marcus, and we sat down and we talked about how we wanted to build an organization, how we wanted to build the people in the organization, what responsibilities would be. We did that on some stationery I still have. It hasn't changed a bit since then. We wanted to build with good people. We wanted to build a solid organization.
Welcome back to a very, very, very special episode of the MVP podcast. But before I tell you, you need to do something. I'm going to put my Sosa voice on and I'm going to do this. Stuff like that. If you like the video, like the video. Share, subscribe, like, do the whole thing. Let me come back to myself now. Yeah, and I'm here to introduce the one and only T and Naeem, the Dream, repping the Chicago Bulls, Derrick Rose.
Get me.
Guys, what are you saying?
I'm chilling, brother. Yourself?
Yeah, man, I'm good too, man.
Good, brother. Ramadan starting, just getting in the vibe, man, getting in the mood.
Ooh-wee. Is, man, definitely. So, guys, this whole episode is going to be split up into segments, exactly the same way that the new Michael Jordan documentary did as well. So we're going to be reviewing it, and we're just going to give our own takes, right? So how about I ask this as a first question to the both of you? What is your biggest take from the first two episodes of The Last Dance?
Do you want to go first, T?
I'm just simply going to say, how can anyone think that someone other than Michael Jordan is the GOAT?
Yo, do you know what? Just to poke a hole in that, in all of that, in that take anyway, it is a documentary that was always going to show Michael Jordan in the highest esteem possible.
Yeah.
So anything bad got taken away. So, you know, if they might have given you a full script, I'm not saying he's not the greatest of all times, but...
No, it's just it's his whole thing, man. Like his mentality, even like when he was in college, he was just a killer, man, from day one. Like the way he was on his teammates, like the way he hated losing. It's like the time Scottie Pippen obviously got injured and he just took over the whole team. They went on a little losing streak and he just said, you know what, I'm not having this anymore. I'm just going to do it by myself. And he actually did it.
Do you know what that sounds like? Kobe Bryant. Why is he not the GOAT? That's the question.
One ring short, I think. One ring short.
We'll get onto that.
Naeem.
To me, it's exactly the same thing. Actually, obviously I've seen a lot of Michael Jordan highlights, clips, and you've seen the stats and everything. But I didn't know he was that competitive from day one. I didn't know he went into a losing situation because I didn't actually know the Bulls were like the worst team in Chicago, like the worst team ever. They were absolute trash. And he went in, and there was a bunch of guys, like you were saying, they were sniffing, they were drinking, they had women, they were just enjoying life and not enjoying basketball. They didn't care about winning or losing, and he didn't accept that. And I think he was 21 when he got drafted. At the age of 21, to go in and tell big grown men. You seen when Charles Oakley slapped Pippen in the
Yeah.
I bet that kind of thing happened to Michael a little bit as well. Like maybe he didn't get slapped, or maybe he did, but he probably got messed around with a lot, because it's like, this is our locker room, who are you, kind of thing. And he came in and said, I don't accept losing. And it kind of sums up why everyone says he's the GOAT and why he won so many times, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. My biggest takeaway from it was, and you know what? It's not the biggest takeaway, but it's a takeaway that I've said quite a lot, actually. As a matter of fact, I think I said it when we spoke to, actually, that doesn't even matter. It's the fact that everything needs to be right in order for you to elevate yourself to any type of status, really. And you know what? If you really deepen, I know we're going to go into a little bit more detail, but everything, although Michael Jordan as on his own is a specimen like no other. Like Naeem, you hit the nail on the head. He came into the league and already he was talking about, no, I want to win. Let me create a culture. It wasn't even let the coach create a culture.
Yeah.
Me create a culture that can stop winning, which is absolutely amazing. But at the same time, there were a lot of things that went really, 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 really right for Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
So, for example, let us first talk about Scottie Pippen. We'll talk about Scottie Pippen first. They traded for him on on draft day, which in itself is like a checklist to Michael Jordan's greatness. Because even in the actual show itself, he said, without Scottie Pippen, who am I? Yeah. Right? Making the trades that they made, it's just everything. That's my take. Everything happened perfectly for Michael Jordan. Obviously, he had a big part to play. But let's talk about Pippen first. Do you want to take it first, T?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I didn't know like how great he was. Obviously, I've heard he was a good player, but like this guy was an unbelievable defender. Like the stuff, like he was, apart from scoring, he basically more or less led the team in everything else, or he was second to Jordan in everything else. And like I didn't know exactly how good he was, and it just shows that obviously Michael Jordan, as great as he was, I don't know how much he could have done without Pippen because I didn't realize how important this guy was. So it just shows no matter how great you are as a player, you can be the best player in the world. As long as you have another good player next to you, it just makes life that much easier. As we saw in that period when Scottie Pippen was injured, like life was hard. Like Michael Jordan had to score 50 every game. Like, he was wearing himself down. So no, I just realized just how good Scottie Pippen was at that time, which I didn't know before this, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot about Scottie Pippen as well, because you always, when you talk about GOAT conversation, you talk about best duos, you say Jordan and Pippen, but you know everything about Jordan almost. You just know the name Pippen, you know 6 rings, you know he was a defender. And I think for most people, most of your average people like us, I say myself at least, it stops there. You don't really know much more than that. And the fact that he was on such a bad contract, until that documentary, I didn't know he was on a bad contract. I didn't know that he was a point guard in high school, and in college he was a point guard, and that's where, you know, the assists and the whole basketball IQ and smartness came from, and it developed, and he became, you know, such a good defender. So I learned a lot, and I'm going to hold my hands up and say, yeah, you know, I didn't know any of these things. Maybe if I went and checked, I would have found them out, but you just don't, because when you look at Kobe and Shaq, okay, they're kind of similar because Kobe became such a good player. By the time Kobe and Shaq, you look more at Shaq. Michael Jordan and Pippen, you look more at, you know, Jordan. You wouldn't really look at Pippen. So, you know, that's shame on us, I guess.
Yeah, but you know what? Do you know the year that Michael Jordan took out? He was an MVP candidate.
Yeah. I know that, but you know, like the whole backstory and you know, all of that. Those are the things that I overlooked, I guess.
He was good, and do you know what? I knew he was good. Did I know he was that good? Absolutely not, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can kind of understand what if Jordan was the greatest of all times, and that was arguably either the best or the second best team to ever play basketball.
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen had to be.
He had to be good.
Yeah. He had to be a big deal. But the story regarding Pippen had to do with the fact that he signed what has got to be the worst contract of all. And quote me if I'm wrong, 7 years, 12 million?
18. 7 years, 18.
7 years, 18 million. Now let's put that into perspective. LeBron James earns 38 million in 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And even at the time, like they said in the show, although he was arguably a top 5 player in the entire league, he was 122nd in salaries.
He was 6th on his own team.
And
he was the second best player. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Do you blame him for what he did? Do you blame him for saying, you know, no, I want out right now, even though what he had, he probably would never have been able to reproduce it?
I'm gonna say, yeah, I kind of do, because he signed it, Unfortunately, he signed it, he locked himself in. He wants to secure himself and his future, which is all due respect, that's fair enough. But you kind of lose leverage at that point. If you've got 1 year left and you're negotiating and you're young and you're upcoming, then fair enough. But when you're locking into a 7-year deal and you've proven that you're a good player, you're a good player at that point. You're not great, but you're a good player. And you're locking in, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot and you lose all leverage until maybe the last year of the contract, if you're still good at that point, which is where the documentary kind of is at the moment on episode 2. So I think, yeah, it is. If you can say fault, I'd say, yeah, it's his fault, but whatever the reasons are, those are his reasons, and we'll get into them after.
Yeah, I do blame him to an extent because you signed such a long-term deal. So once you've signed it, like behaving like that and then demanding a trade, what's it going to do? You're going to be on that same contract on another team. You're just not playing for the Bulls and the people who are not renegotiating with you. But your teammates are the guys you go out and play with all the time. Like, they're the ones that you're hurting because you're not going out to play with them. They're losing games. You had surgery, on just before the season started instead of having it like in the off season. So, like Michael Jordan said, like we can't do it without Scottie Pippen. Like, they all said how important he was. So he was just hurting them, to be honest. And his contract's not going to change. So I don't understand why it calls up such a fuss. Obviously, have the issues with the general manager and stuff like that. But I just think he got to a stage where he's a bit unprofessional about it.
So yeah. let's add Jerry Krause into the argument then, right? Because he plays a massive part in what the hell is going on in this documentary, right? So from the start, they've already set up the ending, which is Jerry Krause breaks up the entire team. So let's add him to the equation of Scottie Pippen. Do you still blame Scottie Pippen even after the team, one, tried to trade him, although it got blocked by the owner, but at the same time feeling like, well, clearly I'm not that important anymore. If you're willing to ship me off, I don't want to play for this guy. I don't want to be on this team anymore. Do you hold it against him then?
Well, the thing is, I'm not too sure. Like, with regards to the trade rumors, his contract was so low that whatever you were trading back for, he wouldn't get equal value in terms of contract value because he was on such a low contract. So like all the big players at that time were on 15, 20 million a year, the sort of the top stars that he was level and equivalent to. So you couldn't make a direct trade for him. You'd have to be with some of the pieces. I think where it all went wrong, and Scotty said, is when they announced that Phil's not coming back after this year, Phil's done after this year, Scotty alluded more to that than the money. And he said that is what kind of messed his head up. And then the trade rumors dangled in front. He's kind of just ruining the spirit of the team. He's kind of making people turn against the ownership and ultimately not want to be there. And he was the biggest one, as obviously we're discussing. So I think it comes down to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he had the whole summer before that season. If he really wanted to leave, he could have just demanded a trade and said, I don't want to even be there this season. But once the season started and you're there, you've chosen to have the surgery, you're injured. So the team's already losing. So why are you kicking up a fuss, causing stuff behind the scenes? At that point, you just got to deal with it. See it through to the end of the season. They've already said Phil Jackson's not coming back. Michael Jordan said he was going to retire. Everyone knew that was the end. So he should have just seen that out, got to the end of the season. Obviously, we're not in his shoes, so we probably don't know everything that's been going on. But like from the outside looking in, we're just try and get to the end of the season, just ride it out with your teammates, win that championship, and then that summer just demand you don't want to come back. But he did it like halfway through the season, said I'm never playing for them ever again, which obviously he did it. He did eventually, but I don't know, it just caused too much friction within the team.
But yeah. on the flip side, though, if you're playing for an organization that clearly does not want you, because bearing in mind, at the summer before the season started, there weren't any issues. Although they did say in the documentary, they said that Scottie Pippen could have had his surgery in the summer and be ready for the start of the next season. One, I wouldn't have taken that chance anyway. So I don't blame him for having taken the surgery because he wants to be ready for the next season. But I also don't hold it against him at the fact that he decided that this team wasn't for him anymore. I know at some point, you put your team ahead of everything. But then after you've seen, because remember, Scottie Pippen did try and restructure his contract. If the team is not willing to do anything for you, then what? Even I would want to be in a better situation. I'd like to be out. With all the turmoil that's around the team, everything that's going against you. People are talking about in the news, they're slandering you, or there's always so much scrutiny going on with what you're doing. You can get caught up in the heat of the moment, and you could think, you know what? No, this is not for me. I do not hold that against him at all.
But do you think off the court? Do you think on the court there was a better situation than the Bulls on the court
But there
to
wasn't.
win a championship?
There wasn't. But the reality of the matter is, the guy won 5 rings. At that point, if you see everything that's going on, season starts, the head coach is leaving. You're not coming back anymore. Already people are talking about at the end of the season, this team is done. Jerry Krause went on TV numerous times talking about how he's going to go and trade Scottie Pippen, how he's going to break up the team.
Yeah.
All that turmoil. Could you even fathom that they could have gone for a 6th title? However good Michael Jordan is, all the off-court situations do affect on-court performances.
I've got something for you. Here's just a spanner in the works. This is for both of you. Is Scottie Pippen the most disrespected superstar of all time?
Do you know what? With the way that we started this podcast, isn't that the answer already? All three of us have said we did not even know how good he was.
Because, like, you know, if you think of just briefly, if you think about it, if you look at Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, I'm just trying to think of 5 ring winners. They all have got so much respect. Elijah was a 2-time, but I'm just talking about people have won 5 times. Johnson, Larry Bird won a few, he won 4. But all the guys that won multiple rings, they were all respected so highly. They all got contracts that matched it. Everyone knows their names for all the right reasons. It seemed like Scottie Pippen, at the time, 5 ring Scottie Pippen, still on the trade block, still isn't getting paid enough. It's crazy when you think about it. Today, that wouldn't happen today.
Do you know?
5 ring LeBron or 5 ring Durant, like, for example, that would never ever happen today.
Yeah, but do you know what you've just done now? Everything you mentioned was the number 1 option of each of those championship winning teams.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. Except Duncan at the end. Let's not forget, Ginobili and Parker were more important at the end.
Duncan led them for so long.
He did. You're right.
No way that the team was ever going to get taken off of him. I think that's what it is. Yeah. No one remembers the number 2. When you're talking about the Miami Heat dynasty, we primarily talk about LeBron James, and then your Wades and your Bushes come after.
It's true. It's very true. It's very true.
The Kobe Bryant thing, the reason why we mentioned both of them is because this is what they were. Which, as a matter of fact, this is what I wanted to talk about as well. Jerry Krause decided to blow up the team, right? But throughout the history, we've seen general managers not necessarily blow up teams, but make trades that then became talking topics about, well, what would have happened if that trade or that free agency, or if they didn't let that player go. There's so many situations where that happened. So, for example, and I had it all in my head earlier today, right? I mentioned that for the Chicago Bulls, everything had to be in order. One of them being that Scottie Pippen was on a terrible contract. If Scottie Pippen wasn't on a terrible contract, let's say he signed that same contract, but for 3 years. If he left, would the Chicago Bulls team be who they were? Would Michael Jordan be who he was?
Michael Jordan would be who he was, but the Bulls probably don't win as much.
Would he be 6 rings, Michael?
No, I don't know if he'd be 6 ring Jordan. He'd still be considered one of the all-time greatest, maybe the greatest ever.
Would you have done that on 3 rings?
Well, this is the thing. I was just going to ask you. Like, LeBron's got 3, and Kobe's got 5, because these are the people who are generating that conversation most of the time. If Jordan had 3 and didn't lose a final, for example, but he had 3 and 3, and Kobe's got 5 out of 7, LeBron's got 3 out of 9 at this moment in time. Like, if you can kind of just assess that and analyze that, where would you have the rankings at that point? Would you have Kobe at the top because he got 5?
I don't.
Or would you, no, still no. At that point, no.
LeBron would be number 1 if Michael Jordan didn't have those 6 rings.
Okay. So LeBron number 1. Would it then be Jordan or would it then be Kobe?
It would be Jordan after that.
So Jordan at 3 and then Kobe at 5, for example.
Do you know why I say that, right? Do you know why I say that? For you to have a dynasty, all the pieces have to be right. You have to have a clear, dominant superstar. So
Yeah.
when, for example, LeBron James went to Miami, Wade automatically conceded and said, I said it on camera, I am the number one, I'm the number two guy now. LeBron
Yeah.
is the one guy. That hierarchy works.
Yeah.
And it lasted until what ended that dynasty was injuries. Okay, if nothing else, I believe that Wade's injury was one of the biggest factors to LeBron James leaving that team. And age, obviously. Why did Kobe and Shaq break up? They were two people trying to vie for that number one spot. I am the number one guy. I am the number one guy. I am the number one guy. And at one point, it all boiled over. Scottie Pippen was by far and beyond the best partner that Michael Jordan could have ever asked for, because Scottie Pippen never wanted to do this.
Yeah.
He didn't even want to do this. He knew Michael Jordan was the clear favorite, just like Wade did. Knew that Michael Jordan was the clear number one. And the fact that you have someone that fills that role, it works. The dynasty with the Golden State Warriors, Steph didn't even have to be on the ball to be effective. They'd have Draymond Green, who didn't even care if he put up a point. Give me 10 rebounds, 10 steals, and 10 assists. I am okay. Klay Thompson is one of the weirdest superstars because he can just stand in the corner and sometimes do nothing but be ready every single second of the game to take a shot. And every other piece just fits. Scottie Pippen just fits so perfectly. That's why I say circumstances matter so much.
Yeah, I think you said it. The reason he's so underappreciated is because he was Robin and Jordan was Batman, and like he never complained, he never had an issue with that. It's just the fact that Jordan just overshadowed him at all times. Like it's Jordan and Pippen. No one ever says Pippen and Jordan. it's never the other way around. So he always just comes after Jordan. He's always just the second. That's probably why he was so underappreciated. But it's all about fit. Like he was happy to be the defender, to assist, steals, just do everything that was needed on that team. If someone like Tracy McGrady was playing with Michael Jordan, that'd be a different thing because he'd be trying to score as well. So it wouldn't have fit. So yeah, everything just worked out for them so beautifully. Like that's why there was such a good combo.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing to add, really. He's perfect. He's said it perfectly.
If you were Jerry Krause, would you have broken up this team?
What, at the end of the end of the sixth ring?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it depends, because if Jordan said he's going to retire, then
would Jordan have even considered retirement if he said, we're going to run it back again, we're going for ring number 7?
Well,
do you know, it's so hard in professional sports, obviously from a GM's perspective, and because you need to know when to get the best value. Like, you look at Harden, the Harden situation, at the time they felt like they got the best value, but they got Kevin Martin and they got the Steven Adams pick. That's not equal trade, that's not equal value, but they thought that was the best time. So many times people have been traded when they're doing well because they think this is the sort of peak value they're going to get. Maybe at that time, and obviously I'm not going to ruin the ending for those that don't know, but you know, maybe at that time you wouldn't have got more for Pippen, for example, if you traded him. You wouldn't have got more for Dennis Rodman, or because they were on the downside of their career. You know, Michael Jordan, if he was going to retire anyway, I don't know, but it's hard to say, and I don't know. It's tough because players always think that if they're in a good situation, they should be there. But as a GM, your job is consistently to make sure that you're building a winner for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Jordan's not going to be around forever. So, yeah.
No, I wouldn't have broken it up. Like, I think Jordan only retired because they said Phil Jackson wasn't coming back. So that's the only reason he decided to call it a day. So I don't think you break up a team like that until they lose. Like, you keep going until someone, like, ends your dynasty. Like, someone has to break it for you to go. Like, the Golden State Warriors, obviously, they had the injuries, but once they lost that finals, so when Kevin Durant left, and things started to happen. Like, this dynasty, they won, and then it was just broken up. Like, who knows how many rings Jordan could have won? Could he have got to 7, 8, 9? Who knows? Like, he just packed it in once they said Phil Jackson wasn't coming back. So no, you don't break up a team that good. Like, someone has to beat them, like, in my opinion.
But you know what the problem with that is, though? I don't know about the cap structure, the cap situation back then. Could they have even afforded Scottie Pippen to come back the year after?
I don't know. I assume we'll find out in the next couple of episodes, maybe. But I don't know, because Jordan was on like 30 million at the time, which for that time was like unprecedented. It was unprecedented for that time. So that would have been like 40%, 45% of the cap. If you had Pippen and Jordan maybe taking up 70% of your cap, or maybe 80%, could you afford it to take other players? I don't know. So we'll have to find out.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, guys, I think we're going to have to put a stop to it there. The next 2 episodes are dropping tomorrow on Sunday, because we're dropping this video on Saturday, right? It's coming out tomorrow, so we're going to do the exact same thing again next week. If you like the video, like the video. That's it. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you. And for the viewers back there, we appreciate you too. Peace.
Peace out.
Peace.